Most people think the end of a Viking's life sounded like a scream, a roar in the heat of battle, the clash of steel on iron, the spray of salt water. But for many of the most powerful men in the north, death didn't come with a blade in the dark. It came with a click, the soft, rhythmic thud of a walrus ivory piece landing on a wooden table. This is Hnefatafl. For centuries, it was the most popular game in the Viking world. But calling it a game is like calling a trial a conversation. In the smoke-choked long halls of the 9th century, this board was a courtroom. It was a diplomatic summit, and more often than history books care to admit, it was a crime scene. Imagine the scene. 2 chieftains. One has insulted the other's lineage. There are 2 options: start a blood feud that will kill hundreds of their sons, or sit down at the board. The stakes? Not gold, not bragging rights, but the very right to rule. Today, we're going beyond the barbarian myth. We're looking at the forensic evidence left behind in burial mounds and the terrifying accounts in the sagas to answer one question. Why did the world's most feared warriors decide their fate on a board game? Part 1. The anatomy of an ambush. To understand the danger, you have to understand the mechanics. Hnefatafl, which literally translates to King's Table, is fundamentally different from chess. In chess, both players start with equal forces. It's a fair fight. Hnefatafl is asymmetrical. It's a simulated assassination. One player, the defender, starts in the center with a small elite guard. They are surrounded. The other player, the attacker, has double the pieces, closing in from the 4 cardinal directions. The rules are brutal. You don't take a piece by landing on it. You trap it. You flank it. To kill a piece, you must surround it on 2 sides, cutting off its breath. If the king is surrounded on all 4 sides, or sometimes just 3 if he's pinned against his own throne, he is captured. Game over. The kingdom falls. But here's the retention builder. The king isn't trying to kill the enemy. He is trying to escape. If he reaches any of the 4 corners of the board, he wins. He flees to the coast, so to speak. This wasn't just a fun puzzle. This was a psychological training tool. It taught Viking leaders how to survive a raid. It taught them how to think when they were outnumbered. In a world where you could be ambushed at any moment, Hnefatafl wasn't a game. It was a survival manual. Part 2. Drengskapr, the social crime of losing. Now, let's talk about the crime of being bad at this game. In Viking society, there was a concept called Drengskapr. It's a word that doesn't translate well to English, but it's a mix of honor, bravery, and, crucially, intelligence. If you were a king who couldn't protect his pieces on the board, how could your men trust you to protect them in a shield wall? Archaeology shows us that these gaming sets were often buried with the dead, right next to their swords. Think about that. You take your Hnefatafl set to the afterlife. It was a badge of office. In 2019, archaeologists in Lindisfarne, the site of the very first Viking raid, found a rare blue glass gaming piece. This suggests that even while they were raiding and pillaging, they were carrying their boards with them. They were playing between the slaughters. But the board also created a social danger zone. In the sagas, we see time and time again that Hnefatafl matches were the spark for actual murder. Why? Because the game allowed a lower-ranking warrior to legally humiliate his superior. On the board, a servant could capture a king. In a culture built on hypermasculinity and ego, that was a recipe for disaster. The board was the only place where the social hierarchy could be inverted, and many men didn't survive the insult. Part 3. The Case of King Canute. This brings us to our most famous true crime instance in Norse history. The year is 1026. King Canute the Great, the man who ruled England, Denmark, and Norway, is at the height of his power. He is playing a game of Hnefatafl with his brother-in-law, Earl Ulf. Now, Ulf had recently been involved in a rebellion against Canute, but they were trying to reconcile. They sat down at the board to settle the tension. Canute made a massive blunder. He lost a knight. In a move that every rage quitter in history can relate to, Canute tried to take the move back. He told Ulf to let him move the piece elsewhere. Ulf didn't just say no. He stood up, overturned the board, and shouted, "You would have run away at the Helga just as you are running now." He was referencing a battle where Canute had allegedly shown cowardice. In the Viking world, that was a death sentence. Canute didn't kill him then. He waited. The next morning, as Ulf was praying in a church, Canute sent his housecarls. They didn't use a board game this time. They used a sword. The Hnefatafl board revealed the truth. There was no peace between them. The game was just the precursor to the execution. Part 4. Forensics of the board. For a long time, historians thought Hnefatafl died out because it was a primitive version of chess. But new forensic analysis of Viking Age boards is telling a different story. We've discovered that boards were often weighted. Some boards found in burials have tiny microscopic grooves that suggest they were used for more than just play. They might have been used for divination. Before a raid, a chieftain might play a solo game or a ritualized match to see if the king, that is, himself, could reach the corner, that is, victory. If the pieces didn't fall his way, the raid was cancelled. The board was a gateway to the gods. Furthermore, the material of the pieces tells us about the criminal economy of the era. We find pieces made of bone, antler, and glass, but the elite pieces were always walrus ivory. This ivory came from the hazardous coast of Greenland. To own a full Hnefatafl set was to say, "I have men brave enough to sail to the edge of the world just to bring me back my toys." It was a display of sheer, terrifying wealth. If you walked into a hall and saw an ivory board, you knew you were in the presence of someone who could have you killed with a whisper. Part 5. The Final Gambit. By the 12th century, Hnefatafl began to vanish. The church arrived, and with it, the game of chess. Chess was balanced, it was orderly, it was civilized. But Hnefatafl represents something the Vikings lost as they became part of Christian Europe. It represents the chaotic, asymmetrical reality of their world, a world where you are always surrounded, a world where your only hope is a desperate sprint for the corner. We look back at the Vikings and see the axes, but the axes were just the tools. The real power was held by the men who could see 3 moves ahead on a board made of bone. They knew that in life, just like in Hnefatafl, you don't have to kill everyone to win. You just have to survive the ambush. The king is still on the board. The question is, which side are you on? Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible videos.